just, hey, that's Bob Bergen right there. Bob Bergen, and apparently the death masks of every Hollywood legend behind him
Now they're
in
not death
bronze.
masks, not death
Yeah,
masks. They're life masks. And do you know the
life
difference?
masks. I do not know the difference.
All right. Well, a life mask is done when they're alive, and a death
Okay.
mask is done when they're dead. Now these are all. They didn't dig these actors up to say, "Hey, let's make a mask of them."
Yeah.
Back in the studio system days, every actor who was under contract would have a life mask made. In the event they got booked in some movie that needed a tremendous amount of prosthetic makeup, and they could figure it out on the mask rather than on the actor.
That I did not know. That's amazing. And I can guess a couple of obvious ones. Obviously, that's Hitchcock. That looks
Right?
like Nicholson next to him.
Very good. By the
Robin
way,
Williams.
I'll tell you, the Nicholson,
Yeah.
that was when he was trying to get away with not wearing any makeup for the Joker in the first Batman movie.
Okay.
And he said, let me do a mask when I'm smiling. And that's hard to
Yeah.
do because teeth get all
Yeah.
kicked. But they said, yeah, you need the makeup.
Yeah.
And let's see, who else did you see?
Well, I see Robin Williams in the top corner there. Looks
Yeah,
like
right, and
Robin
that, and
Williams.
that and that and that is the mask from Mrs. Doubtfire, which was actually used
Of
in the
course.
film. And next to
And
him is Bob Hope.
oh yeah, wait, how about that?
There you go.
Yeah, I got a
And then
life
we got,
mask.
and then we
Looks
got
like yeah, that looks to me like either Lon Chaney or Boris Karloff. I
so
get them mixed up.
that's Karloff.
Karloff, okay,
That's Vincent Price right there.
of
That's
course.
Buster Keaton. He was in silent, so we don't do his voice.
Okay.
Let's see, how do I do this? It's hard to do. Oh my
Yeah, I
gosh,
know.
that's way over there by the lamp. This is really not easy to do. On the far side is Bela Lugosi,
Okay.
and then we've got up here we've got Cagney, and that's Marlon Brando right there.
Oh yeah.
And these are unrelated to any movie whatsoever, but that's Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr.
Oh wow.
I know those are
That
cool, right?
yeah, those are very cool. Those are very cool. Yeah,
And
that's
then I'll do this real fast. Wait, hang
yeah.
on. Over here is that's James Dean and Katharine Hepburn. If I
Got
shake
it.
the camera, you can see Katharine Hepburn.
Yeah, of course. And I also see a signed portrait of Casey Kasem.
Here's your
Very
long
good.
distance dedication.
That's right.
Which,
Oh,
by the
good
way,
one. Yeah.
right now, young people are going, what?
Who?
What?
They've been doing that for the last 3.5 minutes because
Oh, there we go.
we're old.
Okay,
But
yeah.
yeah, that Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney.
I know.
Google
And then
them.
there's going to be a few diehard fans who are going to be like, oh, bitchin', Buster Keaton, that's cool.
I'll tell you what it makes me sad and optimistic at the same time. YouTube has become a place where people react to things, and so you see reaction videos, and I see people doing reaction videos to songs that I thought 20 years ago were music that was too young for me. I
Right.
thought, oh, this, I don't know. I don't know if I get it. I don't know if I get it. And these are people reacting to these songs that are 20 years old because they have literally never heard of them or the
Yeah.
artist, and they're blown away by it. And I thought, okay, on the one hand, it makes me sad because I'm old. But on the other hand, I love that people still appreciate things that came before them. And thanks
Yeah.
to the internet, they can go and discover every one of these faces you pointed to. If you don't know who they are, Google them, and you will find an amazing body of work.
You might be entertained.
Oh, God forbid. And
Yeah.
just to warn you, the movies they're in do not have 11 cuts every minute. So
Not only that, but they're going to hear a lot of voices. They're like, wait a minute, I heard that on Pinky and the Brain once. Oh, no, wasn't that on SpongeBob? No, that's a character from The Simpsons. No, we're all mimicking the greats.
yes. And I just had James Patrick Stewart on, and he talked about how he loves Michael Caine's workshop video where he says, just steal. Steal because the greats that you're stealing from stole from other people. And it's true.
Absolutely.
You rip off
Absolutely.
constantly. And those great voices and those great characters, those voice actors and those legendary actors came up with, they stole them from people they knew in their lives. That's what actors do. We notice
Of course.
things.
And back then, you would go to a James Cagney movie or a Jimmy Stewart movie. They were always James Cagney and Jimmy Stewart, whether it was a Western
Yeah.
or a gangster movie. And today, with the exception of Nicholson, we don't really have, and I think he's semi-retired, but we don't really have
Yeah.
celebrities whose voice and personality is recognizably imitated, with the exception of maybe, I mean, every once in a while you and I will have an audition where we're looking for a so-and-so type or a voice match, and you'll hear the voice and you're like, there's nothing to grasp onto.
It's hard. It's hard because we've talked about this before too, and I've talked about this. There are going to be a lot of people watching this that are fans of animation, voice acting, and who want to get into it, and who have fledgling careers that they want to develop. And we talked before about the fact that an impression is one thing. An impression is something you do either on stage or at a dinner party to wow your friends. Mimicry, or I guess a voice match, an ADR job, is a different animal altogether. And voice matching somebody famous in one scene of a movie sometimes means they're not going to sound anything like what you're used to sounding like.
Exactly. I mean, we've both, I'm sure, done either the TV cut or the actor's not available for their own ADR for the actual film.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'll get the notice from the agent and I'm like, I can't do that, actor. But then they'll show you the clip, the context of that scene. I can remember that one of the first ones I ever did, I revoiced Tom Cruise in Born on the 4th of July in just moments of the film.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like, and I remember getting the audition, like, I can't do Tom Cruise. And for those particular moments, and not only that, but when he was nominated for an Academy Award, I called the ADR casting director and I said, if he wins, can I have the head?
Yeah.
Or I'll take the jaw. And they showed when they showed the clip, the nominees they showed one of my clips.
Really?
They did.
That made it into the movie.
Oh yeah. I so much made it into the movie.
That's funny. That's funny. Well, then he does have one of those voices where if you are not seeing somebody do the facial and the facial movements,
exactly.
The whole vibe he brings, just the voice alone is going to be extremely hard to figure out who that is, because it was never his voice that made him the star that he is. It's a distinct voice in its way, but it's not.
It's the entire brand.
It is everything that comes with it. Right. And it is funny. I had a story like that where this was last year. May he rest in peace. Ricky Jay passed away. And Ricky Jay, I've seen him in movies, always enjoyed his work. Never for a second even thought about trying to mimic his voice.
Right.
And they said, Ricky obviously passed away. We need to finish a couple of scenes that he's in for, I think, a show he was on called Sneaky Pete. And I got the audition. I did my best. And they said, great. Apparently, I was the only one maybe that was even close. He's got a really different voice. And it was just because of the way Ricky sounds. He's sort of in this part of his voice.
And you're working the tongue. You're working the throat. You're doing,
Yeah, you get to know the terrain of a throat, a mouth, your jaw, your palate, all of that, and you're terraforming your own head to fit a voice, and then back to you when they say.
But what we have today that I didn't have when I started doing this in the 80s is YouTube.
Yeah,
because I can actually go and look at the actors' facial expression. That I remember the first time I revoiced Owen Wilson in a project, and I was like, I can hear the voice, but then I would watch clips, and he would talk with his mouth just maybe 2 feet in front of his face like this, and as soon as I did that, and then you have to sound like you've just taken a hit of something really good, and just everything's a run-on sentence because he just never pauses much. And once I got that physical, which is what I teach my students when they're creating original characters, if you physically play the character, the voice will follow.
Yeah.
But for celebrities, there is, and again, when you just did that body twitch of Tom Cruise, you know, I didn't have to hear you. I knew you were doing Tom Cruise.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what a lot of people, I think, are using YouTube for too. Is used to be when an accent would come down the pipe for an audition.
That's right.
There, before YouTube became sort of omnipresent, I had a website I would share with people and say accents.com, and they had every region of the world, and they had people from that city who were natives reading the exact same paragraph, and you could use that as something. Now, there's no excuse for at least not having some way in to doing either a voice match or an accent, at least to start. And then accents, with a voice match, you can either do it or not do it. But with an accent, you really can slowly build the ability to, I think.
Oh yeah, it takes dedication and training and practice. Absolutely. And it's same with commercials. There's no reason to not know how to pronounce the brand, the car, the perfume, because it's at your fingertips on your computer. And I can't tell you how many times, either my agent or an ad agency exec would say, so many actors mispronounce this. I'm like, just do a little Google search and research it. It's there.
Yeah, it is there. Because, as you said, before YouTube, before we could just get any clip of anything, if a voice match came along, I'd have to go to Blockbuster.
That's
and I'd
right.
have to rent it, unless you were lucky enough to have that person's movie on at that moment. And I made a mistake once. This was back in 2000. A De Niro voice match for Copland came along, I guess for a TV version of it. And I went and I think I rented a De Niro movie. And then I realized he's much older than me. He smoked his whole life. And I made the mistake of telling my roommate, look, there's no way I'm going to sound as grizzled as De Niro does. And he says, well, let me get you high, because he had some medicinal marijuana on him.
So you're a method voice matcher.
Yeah, well, I wasn't working as much at the time. I was brand new, and I thought, I really want to book this. I really just want to work. I was new, and I thought, okay, because if I take a hit, it's not that getting high was going to do it. It was that the next morning I knew I was gonna be just kind of down here. Huge mistake, because first of all, I smoked too much. Did you book it? No, I didn't book it.
Oh, because I was going to say, if you book it, you have to get high before the session.
Yeah, exactly. That would have been it. I'm glad I didn't book it, because then I would have thought, well, now I'm sort of handcuffed to this method. But on top of that, I smoked too much and got paranoid.
Oh, my God.
And so the next 30 minutes, my roommate's just laughing at me, trying to catch up with reality. And I thought, yeah, you know what? From now on, either I do it or I don't do it. But I'm not going to use, like, for example, some ways you can naturally do it. I've voice matched Vin Diesel once for a trailer. And I don't know who the normal voice match is for Vin Diesel, but the guy will never have to worry, because I don't know if anyone can really do him. He's got a very, his voice is, he's really, really very distinct. And even now I'm not doing him well. But I said, look, I was the only one that I think got within a mile of his voice for the audition. And I said, if you book me for this, you have to book me at like 8 a.m. Because when I get up, I'm way down here.
Yeah, and you probably don't even want to open your mouth to say good morning to your family until you get to the session.
Right.
So you just save it for the mic.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if it happens with you, but with me, my voice goes up an octave over the course of a day.
I wake up with the same voice I've got right now. The moment I open my eyes, my voice is, that people always say to me, how do you warm up? I push record.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just happen to have one of those voices. I don't have morning voice.
Oh, interesting. Because I have morning voice, afternoon voice, evening voice, all of it.
I have evening voice. I mean, we talk for a living. The last thing I do after 6 o'clock is pick up the telephone if it rings, and it's usually a telemarketer or spam anyway. But I don't like to talk that much after work, because this is what we do.
Right.
But I would say after 6 o'clock, I'm spent. That's when I've got, I guess, morning voice in the evening. So it's just from working and auditioning.
Right. Now, you've been working, I would say, let's see, you it isn't just voice acting for you. It is now. It is, yes. But I remember when we were both at CESD, I'm not sure if you're still there or not.
No, I'm with that.
Gotcha. When I talked to you some, you told me about, oh yeah, I did a Facts of Life appearance. I mean, you were doing on-camera stuff. And was there a point in your life where you said, I think I like just doing voice stuff more, or did it just sort of naturally occur?
I got into the business to do voiceover. I took my first class when I was 14, so voiceover was always my dream. Uh-huh. And then I just started auditioning for sitcoms and for soap operas, and I kept booking them.
Okay.
And I found, damn, that's getting in the way of my voiceover career, because this was before home studios. Right. This was actually before I got into the business, just before you auditioned in your agent's office. We used to go to ad agencies.
Oh. And
so, my day job was tour guide at Universal Studios. That's how I I fed myself and paid my bills the first 5 years I was a auditioning and working voiceover actor. And I was at Universal Studios, and I would just I'd go to knocking on casting directors' doors, and they started to know who I was, and they would offer me auditions. And I just started booking everything I read for. But when you do a sitcom, it's 5 days.
Yeah. I
And my agent would call me up. Hey, I've got an audition for you at Hanna-Barbera. I've got an audition for you over at Deep Filmation. I'm like, I can't go. I'm doing a sitcom. So I stopped doing on camera. The last on camera thing I did was I hosted a game show in the 90s, and that was it. That was the last one I did. And honestly, today would be easier to continue pursuing it because of home recording.
Yeah.
We put COVID aside, but it's like anything. You need a substantial recent body of work to get a theatrical agent to sell. Well, I can't say, here's a great clip of me on Give Me a Break. So, it's not gonna sell me. So I kind of gave up the idea of doing that. But no, I did a lot of soap opera sitcoms. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I loved the sitcom work because it was like doing a play with a live audience.
Right. Yeah. And I did a little bit of on-camera work. Mainly it was in Orlando, and Orlando is a great place to get your feet wet. You could make mistakes and it wouldn't ruin your career or ruin your reputation. It's a great kiddie pool, not to denigrate the people that work there, because I was one of them. But when you got enough work under your belt, usually you'd say, now it's time to go to LA.
Sure.
Usually nobody in LA said, I think now I'm ready for Orlando.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
exactly.
The talent naturally got channeled that way. But the thing I loved, especially for sitcom style stuff, like you say, it is like live theater. The audience is there. They've been primed. They get a good warm-up person getting them ready for the laughs. And if it's a good crew, they don't do a lot of takes, and you don't have the audience there all day. So they're still fresh by the time the two characters hug it out at the end. And I did stuff for Nickelodeon, which is an even bigger party, because for Nickelodeon, it was really about get your lines right, hit that mark, because we have these young kids in the cast that are going to take over everything.
That's right.
You just set them up.
Yeah.
And that's what I got good at. I was, I can come in and set you up and be silly. And like you, I realized for me, it was also stand-up. I was touring for 10 years as a stand-up comic, and I wanted to get off the road so I could just do voiceover. Because everybody who finds voiceover usually realizes this is as good as it's going to get. Best gig.
When I got into it, I mean, I was the only 14, 15-year-old in workshops with adults. Nobody as a teenager was trying to get into voiceover, because back then they wouldn't hire real kids unless it was a Peanuts special.
Yeah.
They hired, June Foray and Dawes Butler to do kids' voices. Today, they want that authentic sound. They hire the real thing. But back then, I was kind of an anomaly. And going back to doing sitcoms, you would do 2 tapings. They would tape the dress rehearsal, you'd break for dinner, and they tape the final. And each taping for a 30-minute episodic sitcom would take maybe an hour. Today, man, I sat through some tapings of Will and Grace and Friends that went 5, 6, 7 hours.
Yeah.
And by the way, after 2 hours, it's not funny anymore.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I dabbled with the idea of being an audience warm-up, but I always hated doing audience warm-up.
I did that a few times.
It's in the entertainment world, it is extremely valuable to have a good audience warm-up person, because that crowd, after a while, none of them know each other, for starters. They've been brought in from all points of the compass, and then they're thrown together to watch a show that they all know and love. But after a little bit of time, they realize, where's all the stardust? Where's all why do I keep looking at that same sound guy? It's like, where's the star we know? They're in their trailer. They'll come out eventually.
Yeah. But I've gone to tapings where some of those warm-up guys, you're like, oh, they are just one relationship or opportunity away from their own sitcom. They're that good. I mean, and they're dedicated, and they're working 7 days a week. They're warming up the audience for a talk show Monday through Friday. Then they're doing the primetime stuff, and they're really, really good. I mean, I went to, I'm a fan of Big Brother, and I go to a lot of their taping when you were allowed to do that. COVID doesn't allow that right now. And their warm-up guy, I can't remember his name, but he is so damn good.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, dude, what is your goal? What do you want to do? And he's like, like everybody else, I want a sitcom. I want to be an on-camera actor, but it pays the bills, but they work their ass off.
Yeah, and there are a lot of satellite jobs in the industry that pay really well, and they become golden cages if you get really good at them. That's one of the reasons why I resisted audience warm-up, because I thought, what if I'm actually good at it? What if they just keep paying me to be an audience warm-up guy and I never get a shot at anything else? Everybody has to ask themselves that question. But
and in our world, there are some, and I've been doing voiceover for almost 40 years. When I got into ADR, there were some groups who demanded you be at their beck and call.
Yeah.
And you don't turn anything down, and you bring food for the crew, and there are rules. And I'm like, I don't want to be a slave to this.
Yeah.
And not be available to even audition for the national commercial.
Right. Yeah.
So I started turning stuff down just because I didn't want those, what'd you call them? The golden handcuffs or whatever?
Golden cage. Yeah.
Golden cage. There you go. I didn't want to be caged.
Yeah. And that's the other thing. I've seen people in loop groups that are phenomenal. They are anything you ask them to do. They have either the person running the group can do it, or they have somebody that fits that bill. They speak multiple languages. They master accents. They can just get into anything you need. And 6 hours later, they're still as attentive and on point. And again, golden cage, because the only loop groups I've ever been a part of were because I booked a voice match to be in the movie or show. And they said, by the way, you're going to record with the group.
With the group.
So we're going to get 8 hours out of you. So, because it won't matter.
And I did, so the first ADR job I had, it was a movie called American Ninja 3.
Okay.
And it's a horrible movie. By the way, anybody watching this, if you're in it, forgive me. It wasn't very good.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, it does not really rise to the promise of American Ninjas 1 and 2.
Oh, no. 1 and 2 were fabulous. When they got to 3. And so I got this because I was interviewing with a theatrical agent. And just to give you an idea of how relevant this agent was, you know how agents, like TV film agents, would have pictures of their clients on the walls?
Yeah.
It was like this. Everyone was dead. Every single actor. I'm like, that person died. Their career is dead. Yeah. And he was like 106 years old. And he looks at my resume and he goes, hey, it says here you do voiceover. You ever loop? I'd never heard the term looping or loop. Yeah. I thought he was asking me if I drank.
Yeah.
And I said, well, socially.
Yeah.
And he goes, what does that mean? And I said, well, what do you mean? And he told me what he meant. And he said, do you have a demo? And I said, yeah. And he gave my demo to this ADR coordinator who called me in to audition to revoice an actor in American Ninja 3. Now, understand, I'd never done ADR. I'd never done lip sync. Mm-hmm. And this blonde karate kid expert in the film, he was like the surfer dude, from Malibu. And they didn't want him to sound like that. So I auditioned and I got hired to revoice him in this film. And they invited me to the premiere, and I ended up sitting next to him. They didn't tell him he was revoiced. and he goes, he looks at me in the movie, he goes, dude, this is like my first movie. I sound so different. And I'm like,
You're going to have a wonderful career, sir.
But from that film forward, the guy that hired me booked me for at least 1 to 3 movies a week.
Wow.
Until he actually passed away. But I didn't want to get involved in groups for the reason that I didn't want to be just the ADR guy. Now, there is no just the ADR guy, because the ADR people that work 5 days a week on series, on features, are making a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they're I mean, we're talking 6 figures, but everyone I talk to would kill to do what you and I do.
Yeah, I guess you could say the grass is always greener. And in this case, the grass is not greener on the other side of the fence for us.
It just depends, from
on where you are.
From a creative standpoint, they would love to be going to Cartoon Network or Disney and do what we do. I don't know what they're doing today with COVID and how they're doing group ADR. I mean, are they going into studios?
It's In my case, I did one group ADR once again because I booked a voice match and they said, we're throwing you in with the group. And they had 14 people on a Zoom call that they juggled in and out. And
Okay.
somebody the day before says, here's a code, here's a link. We're going to get into your laptop and we're going to make sure everything is set up for us. And so it was an 8-hour day, but you get frequent breaks. And when you're recording from home, a break is awesome. It's like, oh, I'll go sit in my living room where I'm nice and comfy.
Exactly.
So they can do it. It is being done. I'm sure at some point there'll be a lag because there's going to be probably about a year where nothing really got produced, and then they're going to start catching up because I think they're starting to figure out sets again.
Yeah. How
they can do
that.
But
also we're on that third wave of COVID, and I think we're going to start having problems again too.
Yeah. For me, I managed to, for once, time it just right. Back in February, as we all started to notice the news trending in a certain direction, I looked into what it would be like to record from home. I already have the equipment, but I did not have the ability to patch in everywhere. Yes. I always thought it was ISDN, and they said, no, there's an app. You can buy it. And so I talked to Andrew Cascino, who knows all things tech.
Oh, Andrew's brilliant.
He's great at it. I mean, he just knows this stuff. And he said, yeah, let me walk you through it. So I got Source Connect.
Yep.
I got Source Connect literally the day before I did my first at-home studio record because I told the director of the video game, I said, look, I'm getting over a cold. I'm pretty sure it's a cold. I'm just telling you guys I'm not 100% sure. And they said, they wanted me to come in and they said, no, go ahead and record from home. This was mid-March.
Wow.
And that was about a week before, it was maybe 4 days before California said everything is shut down. And then everybody stormed the gates of Source Connect.
Well, and I was kind of on the same page where I saw the writing on the wall.
Yeah.
Literally from we are shut down, 10 days later, I was up and running. Yeah. And I bought, it took forever for somebody to want Source Connect. I bought it, I tested it, I had everything up there, but every show I was doing just had me record on Twisted Wave and directed me on a Zoom link.
Interesting.
And I was doing that and then all of a sudden the Source Connect thing happened. And I never get nervous as an actor, ever. But I get, the actor's nightmare when you're like doing a play and you don't know the words, you don't know the line.
Right.
My actor's nightmare now is I finished the greatest session I've ever had with Colette Sunderman or Christy Reed, and I forgot to push record.
Yeah, you forgot to record.
That is my actor's nightmare today.
I did that once halfway through a session. I told them, "Oh, guys, I haven't been recording," and they said, "It's okay. Go ahead and start recording now, but we've been recording on your end and everything's on our end. Everything's clean."
Yeah.
But there are others. I even asked the guy at Source Connect, I said, should I always record backup? And he says, I'll put it to you this way. If you don't, they may never notice, but if you didn't record and they needed it, then you're an asshole. And if you do record and something happens to theirs, then you're a hero. So
yeah, I from day one, I've always recorded backup on my end. And usually they'll ask us to send like a WeTransfer or something for them to have it.
Yeah.
But there was one time where I did a crappy edit and I completely deleted the first 50% of the show. And I was like, please don't let this be the session where they needed it. And they didn't.
Okay.
They didn't, thank God. But I will tell you this, there have been times where I've gone back into the booth afterwards and I was like, I didn't like that performance and just added it.
Oh, well.
On the end with a little note, guys, I just wanted to give you another option. No charge. Happy to do it.
Free of charge. Yeah.
That's right.
And this is something that actors didn't have to worry about last year, much less, 10 years ago.
Correct.
And I didn't know this, but actors, colleagues of ours that I mean, not only admire their talent, but am deeply envious of some of their credits. When this all hit, they said, I have to buy a mic. It's like, what are you talking about? I've been sending stuff in on my phone. Like, you? Yeah, because their names are known. The technical quality doesn't have to be there. It's so-and-so. Oh, we know them. So we just want to get a broad sense of what they're trying. And it didn't change anything for them just to record from a phone. And then as soon as all this hit and they needed a home setup, they were behind the eight ball for a little while. Then they got
and
caught
Chris, there were so many people who were above you and I in their career who didn't even audition from home.
Yeah.
They would pay $10 and go to Voicecasters. Or they would go into the agent's office, even when they didn't have to.
Yeah.
And they're like sweating. They're like, I don't know what to, I mean, we're talking the majors.
Yeah.
Who had to, and they had a more difficult time. In fact, they had a lot of studios actually build them booths and loan them stuff.
Really?
In fact, I got to tell you, I was really hoping, because I use a Sennheiser 416. I sound better on a U87. And, you know, every game, everybody tests your stuff before they hire you. Yeah. And I was like, really hope. I said to my agent, should I go out and get a Sennheiser? I'd rather a Neumann. And she said, no, they'll loan you one if they want it for the job. Okay, great. I was so hoping they would hate my setup because I really wanted a U87, but I'm not going to spend $4,000 to get it.
Right. And that's what happened with me. I've had the exact same mic for 18 years. It got knocked over midway through the run, and I just replaced it. Because if you knock a mic over, a filament mic over, it's done. Even if it still looks perfect, it's done.
Yes. Yeah.
It's a Shure KSM 32, and it's maybe a $600 mic, but it sounds great. It works for everything I've done. It's broadcast quality. The stuff I've been recording for the last 10 months has all either gone into a game or on air. But when you're right, when they've needed a different sound, like I was doing ADR for a game that we had recorded over the last year and a half, and some of it was performance capture with the special mic that goes over your skull cap and hangs down just enough to pick up your performance. They just mailed me that, and I've still got it in a drawer with the skull cap.
They didn't ask for it back?
They haven't asked for it back yet because they think they still may need to do other, like the game hasn't launched yet. There's another month before the game launches. And just last week, they said we need to do another session of pickups. So I have it here, and I'll gladly put it in a bag and drop it off wherever they need it.
Sure.
But yeah, they've sent me things. The only thing I've had to buy besides the Source Connect license is I bought a 25-foot Ethernet cable because I was getting dropouts, and they said you need to get an Ethernet cable, and it needs to plug directly into the modem. The modem's in the next room. Yeah.
And so yes, I had to move a modem into my office.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you can see this, but that's my booth right there, and that's my computer.
Yeah.
So I've got a separate monitor that I can see when I'm in my booth. But my Ethernet cable, 25 feet, which is the longest I think you can get,
might be,
just makes it.
Yeah. So does mine by about 3 inches.
Literally, and if you move it an inch in the booth, it's going to unplug itself.
Yeah. Yeah. So we're lucky there. And this is something that I think voice actors and fledgling voice actors watching this should realize. Obviously, having the skill to do this is paramount. You need to be able to act. You need to be able to build a skill set. Yeah. And on top of that, once you've got the artistic side of it down, at least your approach, because you never stop learning and growing. Sure. But then you've got to learn how to adapt to the non-artistic parts of your career. And that might be, I'm getting a different agent, or I'm dealing with COVID, or I have to start curating my content that I'm putting up on YouTube as examples of my career, or, I have to learn how to make a budget because I don't know how long I'm going to be able to coast on this money that I've just made before I have to go out and get a day job. These are things that I think a lot of people don't quite get under their belt before they really get into a career. And a lot of this is just part of growing up.
Well, and then a lot of it is success. Actors who are very successful, you know, I've never said, I teach animation voiceover, I've never said to my students or anybody, I am above a day job at some point in my career. Now, knock wood, I've not needed it.
Right.
But we've had the commercial strike of 2000. I can remember the animation actors strike in the 80s. I've been the network promo voice that all of a sudden I'm not anymore. The show's canceled, the reboot, and you're not part of the boot. I mean, it happens. So actors, first of all, live below your means, always live below your means. Save every penny you possibly can, and don't take this business for granted, and always try to stay relevant. And that's the problem with success. You know, if you're just so used to booking, well, you know, all of a sudden you're going to be in my case, 56. And they're going to look at IMDb and they're going to go, well, his first job was in the early 80s, so he probably can't sound young
Yeah.
anymore.
Yeah.
Even though I can,
Yeah.
but they're using their casting logic, which is their prerogative. They're welcome to do that. But we have to stay relevant. We have to change with the times. I had so many people emailing me because I chair committees at the union that they resented that their agents were saying, get Source Connect, upgrade your microphone, do this, do that. And they're coming to me like I can fix this for them. And I'm like, look, if you live in New York and you're on Broadway, no mic will make you on Broadway again. No booth will make you on Broadway again. Broadway's gone for now. We are fortunate that we have an agent who's telling us, you want to work, get this done.
Yeah.
And if you get this done, you can continue competing. But buddy, this is not new. When I got into the business, I got my first agent, my first job in 1982. I invested in an answering machine because I was working 7 days a week to pay the bills. I needed to get my agents messages. And then I had to invest in a pager. And then I had to invest in going from reel to reel demos to cassette, from cassette to CD, from CD to website. This is a constant to invest and reinvest to stay relevant. What's different now with COVID is we had to do it in a month or less.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the big difference.
Yeah. Now, of course, the people that were already in the habit of adapting just thought, oh, well, this is just the next thing I have to do to curate my career. The people who had found one approach and had not changed it in decades thought, why do I have to do something different? It's like, because the entire world is different now.
Well, let's talk about William Morris.
Right.
William Morris closed down their voiceover department this year. I used to be with William Morris. I was with them for about 5 years. Lovely group of people. But I was having dinner. I'm sitting outside, lovely summer night, having dinner. And all of a sudden, my cell phone, I'm getting texts, I'm getting calls. What just happened to the world? From casting directors, from actors, that William Morris was closing down their scale voiceover department. Actors saying, I need help, what do I do? I said, we'll talk tomorrow. I go to these actors' websites, they don't have one. I asked to hear demos. They've got demos that are talking about networks that don't exist anymore, like the CW. Or no, I'm sorry, CW does exist. The WB. Yeah, exactly. They hadn't updated their marketing because their agent never told them to. Now, I don't need my agent to tell me it's time to update your demo. I'm going to update my demo when I feel it's the right thing to do.
Right.
Because I'm a businessman. But these were people who, they saw William Morris on the letterhead.
Yeah.
And they were romanticized by that. And they're like, I don't have to do anything. They go in, they read 5 inches of copy every day. And all of a sudden, nobody wants them because they're not relevant right now. Mm-hmm. And their reads weren't relevant. Their marketing wasn't. And they're like, can you recommend me to some agents? I'm like, no, I can't. No, I can't. I had an actress about, a month or two ago. You know Pat Brady. Can you put in a good word for me? I went to listen to this actress's stuff. I said, absolutely not. Why not? Because Kari Walren's better than you. Yeah. And she's represented by her. And I can't send her you because you won't compete.
Right.
And if I'm going to recommend an actor to an agent, that actor's going to curl their toes. That's how good they're going to be. I felt bad for these actors. Now, I would say at least 10% of them, some of them took classes, updated their stuff, and landed in great offices. Right. The rest of them, I don't know what they did. They felt like little lost fishies and they didn't know what to do. And I felt bad. But man, it's called show business for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's not happened in a long time. But for me to walk anyone in the door of my agency and introduce them, even virtually through a link to their demo, is always a dicey proposition. Because if they're a good friend of yours, usually you can be honest with them and say, you need more time, you need more seasoning. If it's someone you don't know, but they're really good, then I could usually couch that and say, look, I would say Pat or Kathy or whoever would be in the field they're looking to get into, Do you have room for somebody that can do this? I'm just telling you that they're out there. I think they've got some talent. And what they'll do, and this is what I'll tell people, and I know you tell your students this and people looking to get in, just because you have a great demo doesn't mean they're just going to immediately sign you. What it means is, okay, we'll meet you in person. We're going to give you a stack of scripts, and we're going to see how you take direction and create a character on the spot. And I've gotten people into the door who have later gone through the actual meet with the engineer. They've done characters, they've done whatever they could, and the agency says, sorry, we just don't have room, which is another way of saying you're not there yet.
Well, any good demo producer can make anybody a great demo.
Yeah.
I mean, a good demo producer can make Helen Keller a great voiceover demo.
Yeah.
With the right editing, with the right direction, even with line reads.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard these days to come by a bad demo because of good demo producers. CSD is one of the few agencies that actually says, here's a stack of copy, show us what you can do.
Yeah.
All agents should do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because they don't know how many takes it took you to get that wonderful line reading. And hey, maybe it only took you 3, in which case, fine, you can work. But if it took you 4 hours, sorry, that's not going to be practical.
Well, what the last 2 demos I did, and I used Chuck Duran as my producer.
Chuck and Stacy.
Yeah, I had Chuck videotape my sessions for 2 reasons. Number one, there is a mystique about doing a demo that actors who've never done one. Well, what's it like? Am I allowed to give my input? Am I allowed to say, let me try one for me? And the answer is, if you're ready for a demo, you absolutely should. Because if a demo producer is steering you in a direction that isn't you, you need to rein it back in and say, no, this is my thing.
Right.
But I also wanted people to see me mess up. I wanted people to watch me need direction, or because look, I love directors. I'm an actor who likes to be directed. We do all of our self-recorded auditions. We're directing ourselves, and there's nobody there to say, here's what you should do, here's what you shouldn't do. I tell my students, you don't direct yourself while you're acting, you direct yourself while you're in the playback. Mm-hmm. And as you're listening and editing, you go, I want to do that line again. Yeah. I want to do that. I want to do one more take. But if you're doing it while you're acting, you're in your head and you're not committing to your choices. I wanted people to see that, hey, I screwed up recording my demo. I mispronounced things. Mm-hmm. I wasn't quite grabbing the intent of the writer. I needed somebody to say, try it this way. Everybody needs to see a working actor screw up. When I hosted a game show, I hosted a kid's version of Jeopardy. Mm-hmm. And the producers the first week asked me, is there anything that we can do for you that'll make your job better? I said, yeah, I'd like to see Alex Trebek's first week hosting, because I want to see how comfortable he was. Well, he wasn't the Alex Trebek that we ended up knowing, because he was a little bit like learning the game and stiff. So I was like, oh, if he can be stiff, I can be stiff. Actors just need to be assured every once in a while, and that never stops.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of those faces behind you, Jack Nicholson, I have read this in an interview with him. He said, I like being directed. I like working with a director that is willing to give me notes and things. I'm not bigger than the job. I'm not bigger than the whole production. And that's the last attitude you would be expecting from someone who's basically on Mount Rushmore in show business. But he's one of those guys that says, no, I'm here to do my job as an actor, which means I want you to do your job and direct me. I'm not somebody who's going to say, leave me alone to my method. No, I want your feedback. So,
well, I was with a voiceover agent once who had, for lack of a better term, button pushers instead of booth directors who gave me nothing. And I went in to talk to the agent and I said, look, we need somebody who can direct. And the agent said, I think she's just really hesitant to direct a working actor. Yeah. And then she said, oh, but Bob, you work all the time. You don't need a director. And I said, look, if Meryl Streep and Al Pacino need a director, certainly a scale plus 10 voice actor does too.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love somebody giving me an idea that I didn't think about. I love somebody interpreting what the writer and the producer's intent is that I'm not getting. Mm-hmm. But a good director is also available to your input. It's collaborative. Yes. But damn it, I want somebody to be, holding onto the reins and steering the ship.
Right.
I'm definitely, I've got ideas. I'm a creative actor, but boy, do I love. I mean, when I don't know how long you've been doing this, but when I first got into the business, our first round of animation auditions was always in studio with a director, always with the producers too, and the network people. And then
Really?
when it became, yeah, I mean, and then during downtime, Hanna-Barbera would do general auditions. We're talking the days of network Saturday morning cartoons.
Mm-hmm.
And when they were done, before they started up the next season, Ginny McSwain and Chris Zimmerman, Andrea, they would say, bring in 5 minutes of your best stuff, and here's a stack of copy. Because if you were always cast as, the young dad or the little Smurf character, and you really wanted to play a villain, but they didn't see you that way, you got a chance to showcase that. And they would direct you, and they would have their producers there to listen to you. We don't have that anymore.
Yeah, that is amazing too, because Andrea Romano is somebody I only worked for, I believe, once. Mm-hmm. And I always felt so jealous of all the guys and gals that were regular people in her orbit that she would cast a lot. And, I didn't resent any of it because I realized they're in there because they're that good and they deserve
That's
it.
right.
And I worked for her on a job where I think she was just there almost as a gun for hire because she was just this close to retiring anyway. Mm-hmm. And just the one day of working with her, I could see why people loved working with her so much. She was absolutely present. And every single thing you did, she picked up on it. She had a note for it, but not in a way that you felt like, gosh, she's just boxing me in. No, she's letting you out. She's going to get everything out of you. And I just loved that was there.
An actor's director. She, even if she didn't like what you were doing, she would have a smile. Oh, that was great. That was great. This time, just to see how it go. And that was, her way. Look, an actor who is directed in a way where they feel corrected or if they're afraid to try again. It's sort of like, a strict teacher or parent. No, what did I tell you? Well, why would you want to try it again for fear of getting spanked again?
Yeah.
But Andrea had a twinkle in her eye. Oh, that was just really, really, really good. Let's try it one more time. That's now you said you worked with her once.
Yeah, once that I'm aware of, yeah.
For me, the director I never got a chance to work with was Gordon Hunt, who was Andrea was the casting director at Hanna-Barbera. He was the voice director. And I never got a chance to work with Gordon, and I wish I had, because from Janet Waldo to Dawes Butler to Michael Bell and all the people that would work with Gordon over the years, I just heard that he was the director of the Mark Taper Forum. I mean, the guy was an actor's director doing cartoons. Mm-hmm. Oh, I take that back. I worked with him once.
Well, there you go.
I did. I did a Nike commercial for the Air Jordans that eventually became the movie Space Jam, and he directed the second one. But it wasn't the same. It was a commercial. It wasn't ensemble character voice acting, and but I did work with him once. You're right.
Yeah. And I've enjoyed my time working with every director I've had because it means, hey, I'm working.
You betcha.
I'm in there working. There's the occasional one that just gives you line readings and you're thinking, okay, I could just get into a fight about this, or I could say, let's just get through this. And
well, we know who that is. And every actor feels the same way. Every actor also wants to come back in next week's show.
Yeah.
Listen, bless his heart. When I first got into business, I'm going to say his name because he's no longer with us, but there was a director named Wally Burr. And Wally Burr, one of the reasons we went on strike in the 80s, do you know that half-hour cartoon sessions used to be 8-hour contracts?
From working on The Simpsons, I remember the cast members telling us in the beginning seasons of the show, they were there for 8 hours. And yes. There would be rewrites during the day. They'd play a lot of ping pong while they were waiting for new pages. It was a long day for them.
They also got paid really well for those long days.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's complaining, but yeah.
Right. But Wally, a half-hour cartoon, to this day, they have us for 4 hours. Even before COVID, it didn't take 4 hours. No, but they have us usually. For 4 hours.
Yeah.
But Wally didn't give line reads. He would give syllable reads. He came behind me one day and he literally whispered, if the line is, where did she go? He'd, where did she? And that's how he would direct me. And I one time took off my headphones and I said, do you want to play the character?
Yeah.
Now, again, like you just said, I don't mind line reads. I've seen actors never work again because they bitch and moan about the line reads.
Mm-hmm.
Look, if I have an idea after I'm given the line read, if I say to the director, can I try one for me? They never say no unless they're on a time crunch. And even then they don't say no.
Yeah.
But my God, if that adjective didn't trigger the performance they want, or I'm not able to give them what the producer behind them is trying to get, bring on the line read.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh yeah, I don't mind line reads at all. I've worked with Emmy winners who will, after a couple of notes, they'll say, "Give me a line read." Hey, I don't mind. Now, the director, I think we know we're talking about. Their only style is to just give a line read. Yeah, that is it. And I thought, okay, because I've actually thought this to myself. All right, this is a nice person. I get along great with them, and if I just go along with this, we're going to get out of here a lot faster and fine. Look, they need to be happy much more than I need to be happy. So fine, let's do this.
And the bottom line is they keep getting hired because the end product makes the studio and the network happy.
Yeah. And I remember going to an acting workshop a couple of times with a roommate I had, and this was for on camera. And I was still entertaining notions of doing some on camera out here. And I didn't much like the workshop director's approach at all. It just wasn't a fit for me. But I learned one thing that was very valuable, and that was while someone was doing a monologue, they had a bottle in their hand as a prop, and the character was getting emotional, and you can already see what's coming. They got emotional, and they threw the bottle at the wall, and it didn't break, and but it was this big outburst of emotion. It was very showy, and the director said, "Stop. You will never get away with doing that on a set. You might hurt somebody. You might break something. You might blow the mic. You have to be able to work professionally, not just with your performance, but you have to keep everything else in mind. You have to know that you're on a professional set. You need to learn professional courtesy, professional etiquette." And I thought, okay, because I might have been the kind of person to try doing something like that too. And I thought, even though this person's approach does not work for me, I picked up a very valuable piece of information. And that is, there are other people involved in this too. It isn't just about your performance. It's about a lot of other things.
Abso-freaking-lutely. And, like you said, they throw that bottle, there's going to be a grip or a boom mic operator who's going to lose an eye when that thing breaks.
Yeah.
I mean, to us, that's common sense. I'm a big advocate of an actor taking risks.
Yeah.
To an extent, to a point.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a crazy risk.
Yeah. And I think Jack Lemmon was once asked this. Have you ever lost yourself in a character? He says, well, never totally, because if you're completely lost in the character, then you're not aware you're on a stage in front of a live audience or surrounded by a crew. You've always got to have some part of you aware that you're giving a performance as authentic as you want it to be. Same goes for a mic. I mean, I remember the early stories of Shrek. Chris Farley was the original Shrek.
I know he was.
And he passed away. And they said, I think I worked with the engineer who recorded him in the beginning, and he said, Chris was running around the room doing the voice. And I said, Chris, you have to be right here.
Yeah.
And you can't wave in front of the mic too much because you'll make noise or brush against it. He just needed to be acclimated to a voiceover environment.
And there was a cartoon that Deke did called Captain Planet, where I understand that Tom Cruise was hired to be Captain Planet. It was, I think, right after Risky Business. And he wanted to run across the stage when the character was running. And they said, Tom, you can't do that. And he goes, I can't just stand in front of the mic. I've got to, and they're like, the character flies too. What are you going to do?
Yeah.
So they paid off his contract and hired a voice actor to come in and play Captain Planet. But you and I'm sure you've seen celebrities where they just don't know what to do with that microphone. They don't know how to be authentic as an actor. I did a series years ago called Duck Dodgers, and they had a lot of stunt people come in, a lot of celebrities come in, and you could just tell, they're turning their page when they're talking, or the mic's here and they're looking over at me over there. And they got scale, so they got the celebrity that they wanted, but it just doesn't. And then you find the celebrity, who absolutely understands technically this medium that we do. It is not an easy thing to, you and I do this a lot. if we were to watch a session and you watch the D Bakers and Andrew and Candy Mile, and you watch all of us working that microphone, as in our mind, we're imagining they're getting nose to nose with their scene partner, and now they're talking over the mic because it's get a little room noise, they're running. We don't think about doing that. It's instinct. That's because we do this for a living. We dance the dance. It's choreography. Mm-hmm. I couldn't do a play on Broadway and really know technically. I mean, I'm an actor. I know stage right, stage left, but that's not my instinct because I'm not trained to do that.
Right. Yeah, I remember Duck Dodgers was the first time I think I got to work with you, because I did basically a Lee Majors sound-alike.
I remember that.
Steve Austin,
it was like a Jamie Summers and $6 Million Man thing, wasn't it?
And it was a great day because I got to meet you, got to meet Joe, and I got to meet Henry Winkler.
I remember that session.
Oh my God, that's the Fonz. That's Henry Winkler.
He was so sweet and so humble.
Yeah, exactly. And you think, you get the chance to meet a lot of famous people in this business, and you always hope, it's like, I hope they're as nice as I hear they are, or I hope they're as nice as I would want them to be, because you don't want that illusion shattered. And Henry Winkler is one of the many actors I've met who is exactly as you would hope he would be. Warm, funny, kind, listens to you, is appreciative.
Excited to be there.
Yeah, exactly. Knows it's a job. And this is well before Barry comes along and completely throws him back into a top tier.
Reinvented him.
Yeah. So that's another lesson, is that a career has waves. And it's very rare. It does happen in voice acting because some people just work constantly. But it's very rare you just go bump and you hold it. Everybody has waves.
You and I audition every day. And I tell my students that, I'm like, a day doesn't go by. I just auditioned again for Porky Pig.
Really?
Oh, dude, my 10th time in 30 years.
I was thinking this wouldn't be the first time they've made you once again have to prove your voice.
So right now we have Looney Tunes cartoons on HBO Max. I auditioned for that while I was doing new Looney Tunes. Mm-hmm. I mean, I audition anytime there's a new major production, they make me read. Now, I will tell you that the first time that happened, I'll tell you why the first time that happened. It was the first Nike spot for the Air Jordans.
Okay.
And I go to the session and I had laryngitis. I just had a cold laryngitis. And my voice was like this. And I said, guys, I'm really sorry. The advertising agency interpreted that as he's lost the ability to do this character. So like 2 or 3 weeks later, my agent says they're holding auditions for Porky for this commercial. I said, what do I do? And she said, let's audition you under an assumed name. See what happens.
Yeah.
Okay. And I booked it. That was the first time. Yeah. The second time was for the movie Space Jam. And for Space Jam, I had callback after callback after callback for my last callback. And I remember being at LA Studios. And I was going to read for Ivan Reitman. And I'm in a room, the lobby at LA Studios.
Yeah.
We went from like hundreds of people down to about 6 or 7 of us. They brought out the sides. It was Shakespeare. And everyone grabs their sides. They're like, going back to what you were saying about ADR and celebrities, they could mimic That's All, folks. They could say, what's up, Doc? But new stuff was a struggle. I looked at that and I went, the opposite. Oh, I got this one down. I got this down. I knew the character and I knew Shakespeare. So, but recently I had to audition for him again for a brand new project. And so I went from, oh my God, what do I do, to, well, I'm going to go in and I know this character better than I know myself. If I don't get it and somebody else gets it, God bless them. Enjoy.
Yeah, I mean, they must be amazing. It's like, well, okay. But yeah, and somehow I knew that you said when it was Shakespeare, I knew that you were thinking, well, I've got this. Because
I just went, yeah. I mean, how many times have you, because I teach, I get it. I get this, but actors will send me their demos and it's SpongeBob and it's Homer Simpson.
Yeah.
And it's Yogi Bear and they're saying the catchphrases.
Yeah.
I had somebody I coached about 2 weeks ago who sent me just a whole bunch of MP3s and sent me a pretty good Yogi Bear. He was very good. I'm smarter than the average bear.
Yeah.
I said, that's great. You got a newspaper nearby?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, I do. I said, great. Grab it and read the front page as Yogi Bear. Couldn't do it.
Yep.
I said,
learned,
dude,
yeah.
we do new dialogue.
I know.
We're doing new stuff.
Yeah, believe me, if they just want the old stuff, they have that. They could just.
Oh my God!
It's
and they
banked.
and they pay in a state scale.
Yeah.
You know, if they have to.
I learned that lesson as a stand-up. I was doing impressions on stage, and I learned that, okay, yeah, everybody can do a catchphrase. I would see other comics that could learn a catchphrase of a famous person. I would take them and have them doing something completely different. I thought the audience will really enjoy a character that they know without their catchphrases. Reimagine them in some other scenario. So when it came time to do a demo for voiceover, I filled it with celebrity impressions, and yet not a single one of them said their catchphrase. It was all stuff I invented. Yep. So yeah, and it was, they always said your demo should be 30 seconds to a minute. Mine was 2 minutes and 46 seconds, and they kept all of it. They said, no, we want all of it up there. You're doing a bunch of different things, and if somebody doesn't want to hear all of it, they'll just stop. And so, yeah, I broke that rule, but that demo was up on my agency's website for years until I finally just gave them something shorter. And now we're at a point where my YouTube channel has literally 100 videos of clips of things I've done. So,
and by the way, that's the selling point. That's the tool that agents want today.
Yeah, I know. That's the other thing.
That sells you better than the demo these days.
Well, when you're teaching, like you've been teaching for how many years now?
30 something.
Okay, so just pretty much as long as you've been acting, you've also been coaching other people, teaching them. Okay. How much of your time do you find, well, I guess you would have different tiers of classes, different things you would focus on, or it is a one-stop shop?
Well, my 8-week class, which I'm not doing right now because of COVID.
Right.
One evening I talked about the business of the business and demos, the do's and the don'ts, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. In private coaching, and I started doing this, I never did Zoom coaching until COVID. In fact, in June was the first time I did it. And that has a wait list now because people can't do in-person workshops.
Right.
But every once in a while, somebody wants let's talk about demos. Here's my demo. When it comes to the character demo, it's not about, can you do 100 different voices? It's, I'll backpedal a little bit. The commercial demo, the promo demo, the commercial demo doesn't reflect advertising from the 80s, and the promo demo doesn't reflect programming from the 50s. It's contemporary. The same with the character demo. So an actor who thinks they're demo ready, I'm going to say to them, do you know what Christy Reed might need for an audition for OKKO? How about Colette Sunderman for Marvel's Avengers Assembled? How about Maria Estrada for Netflix? You need to know the networks, the time slots, Sprout versus PBS Kids.
Yeah.
It's and I didn't have the internet to research this stuff. So it's not just how many voices can I do, it's how many original characters do I have? I mean, when I was on this side of the class, oh my God, did you get into the business when they had agency house reels, or is that before your time?
I got in, I was signed at KSA with Pat Brady in 2000.
Okay.
So
they probably had Voice Bank back then.
Yeah.
Where everybody was on Voice Bank. So when I got into the business, they had a thing called the house reel, giant reel to reel that agents would market they would put it together every 1 to 2 years. It would be, our demos back then were 2 to 5 minutes long. They would take a minute of the top actors' demos and put it on a house reel and send it out to everybody. So when I was starting out, I would call agencies pretending to be a producer just so I could get their house reel and listen to what the competition sounded like. Today, it's all online. So an actor who's looking to get into animation, and let's be honest, you really should live in Los Angeles with a Los Angeles agent because this is where the industry is. You can go to CESD, Atlas, SBV, DPN, AVO, Vox. You can go to their websites. Whatever you hear on those demos, that's what they don't need. That's what they're already representing. Your demo has to be better than that and more original than that. And that's why very few people get representation when they submit a demo, because very few people are that good.
Yeah, it is. It's, I would say it's the best kept secret in entertainment, but the
Not anymore.
secret's out.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
because in 2000, when I got in, and I had done some voice acting in Orlando, and it was just enough for me to learn the ropes. Like my first ADR session was in Orlando, and it was one I was not paid for because it was a show I had done a guest appearance on. And the director called me up, and he knew I could mimic, and he said, I need someone who can mimic Julio Iglesias Jr. because he had been a guest star on the show, and his accent was too thick and some of the sound was off. And I went in and just cold looked at the footage, heard it, and did. He says, look, I don't have a budget. This was a non-union show. I was non-union. And he says, but I'll teach you how to do ADR, and one day this might be valuable. I said, sure. It seemed like a fair trade to me.
It was great education.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't know about the beeps. It was beep, beep, beep. And I just stood there, and he goes, yeah, you got to go on the fourth imaginary beep. I learned the ropes. So I learned that. And then out here in 2000s when I got with Pat Brady and KSA, and this was, at the time, they were still recording you on video cassette and messengering it to the studios and the casting agents. And then it all went to internet. And even then, I was hearing from people who were working a lot in the 80s and 90s. They said, so many people are getting into this business. It used to be me against maybe 5 other guys. And if the other 4 guys didn't get it, they booked some other job that day.
That's right. You would go to an ad agency and you would see Dave Madden and Jack Angel and, just the creme de la creme.
Yeah.
And you knew you were going to do something on that job. You didn't know what. If you remember when we used to go to voice casters on a busy week, maybe 3 or 4 times, on a slow week once.
Yeah.
And you'd look on the wall and you'd see, I'm reading against these 10 people.
All those demos. Yeah. Yeah.
But you'd see the list of actors who are reading what, and
Yeah.
you'd see, there's only 15 of us reading for this particular radio spot. Well, it's 1,500 now.
Right. Right.
For a radio, for a Minnesota Lottery radio spot.
Yeah.
There's 1,500.
And that's the buyers that have decided to stay union. And
right.
I guess there are ones that say, well, there are people using, I don't know what it's called. Is it, there's an
Voice
upload.
1, 2, 3?
Yeah, Voice 1, 2, 3. I don't know if they just take everybody, but there are ways.
Yeah, you pay for it.
Okay. Yeah.
The actor pays a subscription to get the privilege of auditioning.
Yeah. So, yeah, and there are buyers out there who just decide, well, if there are, this X number of voice actors in LA and New York, but they're all union, we can choose from them, or we can choose from the thousands and thousands of people that live around the country. If we're willing to wade through a bunch of stuff we can't use, we might find that pearl that's really great. And yes, you might. One of the, I've always believed that the agencies that are union and the buyers that go union are getting 2 things. They're getting, I still think we're the best talent out there. And it's not that non-union people aren't talented. It's just the ones that are really talented tend to move out here and join the union because that's where the work is. And number 2, a union actor who is experienced is going to give you what you need in less time with less hassle in a much more professional environment. And so ultimately it saves them money to do that. Well,
I used to believe what you believe.
Oh, no. Well, educate me then.
The 80% of voiceover is now non-union.
Yeah. What was it before?
95% was union.
Oh, really? Okay.
95% when I got into the business was union. You were looked down upon if you didn't have a SAG card. And very, very few people went FICOR. Very few. What happened was what I call the perfect storm. We had a commercial strike in 2000 that coincided with the launch of Voice 1, 2, 3. So in the 6 months we were on strike, the non-union industry was birthed. And people in Dayton, Ohio with home studios were able, and they, by the way, the non-union world has had home studios much more sophisticated than you and I have right now for decades. The only contract that has stayed union, 95%, is animation. And that is because of celebrities and because, for all intents and purposes, it's a scale business. So if you're doing a series And you can get David Schwimmer for scale to come in and do a guest shot, and you're a huge fan of Friends. It's going to keep it union. The non-union actors, when I got into the business, absolutely were inferior to the union actors. So many national commercials that we are seeing on TV and primetime television are non-union. They're not bad. In fact, they're quite good because after 20 years, we have conditioned 4 or 5 generations of both actors and buyers how to do it easier, faster, and not necessarily cheaper. Statistically, the non-union actor makes more than we do.
Yeah, I remember talking to some of these guys saying what they're, because they would hire non-union people and they say, I'm paying them more, it's just there are no residuals. And yeah, and also the working conditions don't have to adhere to union standards, which means
That's right.
They can ask you to scream as many times as you want. You don't necessarily are going to get a break if they don't want to give you one. And yeah, we may pay you in 3 months, not,
and let's talk about, and by the way, the non-union community is far more organized than we are.
Oh, really?
Far more organized than we are. Let's say when I got into the business, I was the voice of the Happy Meal French fries for McDonald's for about 15 years. And as well as I do, a Class A commercial can pay quite well.
Yeah.
Not today. Today, they don't run as often or as long unless you're Flow on Progressive.
Right.
But if you can make 10 grand on a national commercial, that's great money today on a union spot. They'll pay a non-union actor 10 grand for a buyout just so they don't have to worry about writing more checks.
Yeah.
So the non-union actor, here's their day. They audition at 9 o'clock. They get the booking at 10. They finish recording by 11. We can't get the union to answer a question in an hour, let alone a day.
Right.
So they've created a faster and easier business model. They'll do a job in the morning for $500, in the afternoon for $50, in the late afternoon for $1,500. And by the end of the day, they've made more money than the average union actor. Now, we're lucky, you and I, because we're in a layer of this industry that even at scale for animation, it's pretty good. It's pretty good. And if you do features and you get residuals on those features, it's pretty good. Not what it used to be. When I got into the business, animation was Saturday morning cartoons, just like a primetime network show. You do 13 episodes, and they would just keep rerunning it throughout the rest of the year. And every time they reran it, you got a session fee. And by the end of the year, you got about 30 to 40 session fees, just because of reruns. We don't do reruns anymore, and everything's on cable, which pays you over 3 months based on how many units, et cetera, et cetera. It's a different world.
Yes. And well, at my stage of my career, which as we know, our careers could go another 30 years. Your voice is, as long as you take care of it, you basically sound pretty similar to when, you're at your peak. But as the working conditions change, as the revenue changes, I think about how many years I have in, and I think about pension, health, things like that. And I start to wonder, what kind of condition is the pension plan going to be in if the revenue keeps changing like this?
Good man, you're smart. So 20 years ago, here's the problem. You got New York, you got Los Angeles, and in between here, you got Chicago. Yeah. And those were the union towns that owned voiceover. And 20 years ago, I started teaching weekend classes around the country, and I am seeing this trend in non-union. And I would say, guys, residuals, pension, health insurance, foreign language to them. Well, no, I've got a 401k. I've got Kaiser. Residuals, isn't that what Tom Hanks gets?
Yeah.
And I would come back to the union and I'd say, guys, we're going to lose this. And they thought that I was being silly. I'll give you an earlier example. And I saw the writing on the wall. I got my SAG card in 1982. When you join the union, they have like an orientation for new members. I went to my orientation. And, it's like, here's so-and-so who's in the contracts department. Here's the agents department. And here, okay, any questions? And I went, I got one. I was 18. I said, I'm living with my parents still. My parents just got this thing called HBO. It literally is a wire in back of the TV and shows the same 3 movies all week long. But my gut tells me it can be something major in the landscape of TV. What does the union think? And the president of the union said, "How old are you, young man?" And I said, 18. And he goes, "Well, let me give you some advice. When you get to be my age, you will know that the only 3 entities you need to be concerned about when it comes to TV are ABC, NBC, and CBS." And I came home and I said to my parents, "I'm in trouble. I'm in trouble." And when we lost cable, because the industry said, "We don't know what it's going to be yet." And when we lost video, "We don't know what it's going to be yet." And when we lost streaming, "We don't know what it's going to be yet." We've lost that game. So the non-union buyers, all I got to do is pay 1 check. And the actor does, and they still have conflicts. These commercials still have conflicts. You gave me $10,000 to be the voice of Toyota, and it's a 3-year buyout. I don't need to do Honda in the next 3 years. $10,000 today, I get minimum wage saying, "Would you like fries with that at McDonald's?" And you're paying me $10,000 today. And I tried to tell them, buddy, I was vested in my pension the first 10 years I was a voice actor.
Uh-huh.
I'm maxed out today. If I work for the next 30, 40 years, and I hope to, I'm not adding to my pension. I'm maxed out.
Right. Now,
but I've got one.
Yeah. Well, that's my other question is, how guaranteed are our pensions? Because I've got,
Ours are fine.
Yeah,
ours are fine.
Okay.
I think so. I think ours are fine. Now look, 80% of voiceover is now non-union.
Right.
They just did some major adjustments in pension and rather the health
the health plan
benefits for both retired and non-retired actors.
Yeah.
Can you imagine if 80% of the work was still union and every job was being paid into the P&H pool? We wouldn't be in this predicament.
No.
And when I complained to the union for 20 years, this is eroding. This business is eroding in voiceover because the people I'm talking to are in the Los Angeles bubble.
Mm-hmm.
They're completely clueless to what's happening in the rest of the country.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, this is the continuing education we talk about. I was not aware of this. And so this is why I love having these conversations, because I'm very into critical thinking. You may believe something, but you have to challenge your belief. Why do you believe it? What's the strongest argument against it? Under what circumstances would you change your mind? Now, I didn't have the highest hopes for pensions in the future anyway. My son has been working for a couple of years. He's never made quite enough to get the P&H contribution, and I don't care. He's 9. Right. I know that, you know what? I'm going to teach him fiscal responsibility early on so that he's not going to rely on it, because I don't even know if that concept will exist when he's older. Yeah. But we might get lucky and get health care for everybody. That's a political rabbit hole we could go down. Right. But we might get lucky as a country and have everyone's healthcare taken care of if we move in that direction. We will not have pensions protected, because that's just that I don't believe that we have the political will to make those two things happen at the same time. So as part of continuing education for an actor, especially if you're in a bubble and you think it's all protected, well, we talk about the need to learn how to use Source Connect, the need to learn how to redo your demo. Okay, you might have to think differently about how you're providing for your future, because if you're new and you're just getting your first 2 or 3 pension and health credits and you're thinking, 7 more years, I get my pension, the pension may be different in 7 years. It may not pay what it's going to pay. Start thinking about how you can put money aside, because I've seen this in the corporate world. I have a sister-in-law who works corporate jobs. Used to be, you would have 401ks, you'd have other benefits. Now it's all subcontracted. And so the zeitgeist is not looking out for people long term as far as your financial security. Right.
I tell my students, live your life as if you're not going to have it.
Yeah.
Just your day to day. I used to be in these, like I said, these all day Saturday workout groups with these legends in voiceover, and I would watch them make magic with those. It was Don LaFontaine, it was Danny Dark, it was Bernie Anderson, and 15, 16-year-old me. and watching them work. And they would, of course, I was terrible, but I would rise above my skill level just by working alongside them. Mm-hmm. But my best education was lunch. When they would give me advice, tell me war stories. I mean, Jack Angel told me about his dining room table, which was a typewriter, paper, padded envelopes, crack and peel demo and he would send out demos every day. And I did too. In the first several years in the business, I was spending 10 grand a year in marketing. Today it's free because it's online.
Right.
But they also told me, live below your means, always live below your means. Live your life as if you're not going to make health benefits and you're not going to make a pension. Save everything. The first 5 years I was a voice actor, I was a tour guide at Universal Studios. And I was a working voice actor, but I wasn't I made benefits. Benefits, I think back then you had to make $3,500. Okay. I think for like tier 2. But I made tier 1, I made $7,500. Woo. Mm-hmm. I saved everything I ever made in voiceover. So when Universal fired me because I had 32 sick days my last year, because I was doing a lot of voiceover work, I had 2 years of voiceover saved up. That was 2 years of living expenses, of rent, of car payments, of insurance. And I made health insurance every year. So I took their advice and I was like, okay, I'm out of a day job, but I'm going to give this full time a shot and see what happens. I can live off of this for 2 years. So that was 1987. I bought my first condo in 1990 because the momentum continued. Mm-hmm. I was actually on a roll. The best thing Universal did was to fire me, because I then 100% dove into this business. But to this day, I live my life, and I do okay, but I live my life as if I don't know where my next job is, because, you know, unless you're on a series or whatever, you kind of sort of don't.
Right. Right. I always, I put my jobs into 2 categories. I'm fortunate to be on the greatest show ever. I get to be on The Simpsons, and I imagine they're going to keep doing it. And if I'm lucky, they'll keep having me be a part of it. But I always like to write down every job I book. And I write down all the non-Simpsons jobs, because those are ones that I like. If The Simpsons, we sign another contract, I know there's going to be 22 table reads, 22 record days, and then there's going to be some ADR in there. And so those things are set. The things that are not set, I keep an eye on. And if I have a down year, I talk to my wife and I say, look, I had a great year, but this part of my my career was down. It's okay because it comes in waves, but I keep an eye on that.
We all do that. If you're smart, you do. You're smart.
Yeah, exactly. I don't like to take anything for granted. And at the same time, I also tell myself, don't forget to enjoy it, because if you're lucky enough to have money to put away, that means you're doing better than most people. And that's not just in voice acting, just in general. Right. Just to be able to have that luxury. And the other luxury we have is if you built enough relationships, yes, and if it's not animation, although I know some animation people that are scooting away from LA now. I don't know, maybe they're able to make it work, but
I know a lot of her coming back too.
Are they? Are they seeing the restrictions lift and they're starting to think?
They're realizing, wow, there's a time zone problem with this. I need to, yeah. Okay. Out of sight, out of mind sort of thing too.
Yeah. And that's the other thing, is that you can live anywhere and do this, but you've got to be able to work on their time schedule. They're not going to suddenly start showing up at 4 a.m. because you live on a different continent. You've got to work around theirs. If you're willing to do that, okay, fine. You know?
Yep. I remember years ago, some company in Australia wanted me for an ISDN something or other, but I had to do it like at 1 a.m. I'm like, yeah, happy to.
Yeah.
And they weren't going to consider me because they thought I'd say, I'm not going to do that at 1 a.m. It was a good job. It was really, I don't even remember what it was, but I was like, are you kidding? I get to do what I want to do, what I love doing. I can sleep the next night. I'm okay.
Right. Yeah.
I'm fine.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would say people watching this, they spend so much time working on their social media profiles as well. And you must get this with students. I see people ask me questions about voice acting, and I see them putting a ton of effort into marketing themselves on social media, which is great because you have to know how to do that. But then I'll notice that what they're marketing is a skill set that is not there yet. And I'm correct. I try to tell them, look, you're really good at bringing attention to yourself. But right now, I don't think you want all that attention, because what they finally see when they get to you is, oh, well, he's not ready. She's not ready. And now when they think of you as the person that's not ready.
You are absolutely right. And what's happening, I mean, when I was sending out demos, my first demo was really bad. And I play it for my students just to show them you can improve. But I sent out like 30 something demos in 1980, I think. Mm-hmm. And I literally went all over town getting it back because I wanted no records of that demo. Today, people post it on social media. Social media is written in permanent ink.
Yeah, it's there.
So let's say, I know a lot of agents who get shitty demos and they put it in the reject file. Mm-hmm. So when an actor submits randomly for representation, the first thing they do is where they reject it, and they may not even listen to the new one, or they don't care. Time is money.
Yeah.
So people are right now putting themselves out there. Or I saw somebody on social media last week asking, should they hire a branding professional for their voiceover career? And I looked at their social media and I looked for a voiceover page. I looked for demos. They had nothing. And I said, you got to have a brand to brand it.
Yeah.
You don't have, if you brand your, I hate slogans for voiceover actors, the smooth yet rough voice. Yeah. I don't care. You know, if I listen to your demo and I don't think you're smooth or rough, I just think you're crappy. It doesn't matter what you want to call yourself, but you're absolutely right. You got to have a good social media presence, but you got to have a product to sell, and It's got to be impressive.
Yeah. And so many people put the cart in front of the horse. They realize that the social media part of it, not only are they pretty good at it, they tend to enjoy it. They spend a lot of time on it.
Yeah.
But they're putting up a signal that they're here for voiceover. But if you look at their feed, there's no voiceover there. There's no, here's me at a job, or here's something I just did. No, it's, I've been working on this or that. It's like, great, let me hear it. It's not there yet. So
correct.
And I understand the rush to get it done. I was that person. I was that person.
I do too. I'm not the greatest at social media, you know. Yeah. Because I know so many people who post the most mundane things that I don't care about, that I don't ever want to be that person. So I promote the end result. I don't talk about the journey that got me there. You know, that's the other thing. People are losing work because they're bragging about auditions and callbacks.
Yeah, that's, you know, you're not supposed to talk about it until they say it's okay for you to talk about it.
And here's what happens. They'll be very ambiguous about what they're saying. Can't talk about it, but think good thoughts about my callback today. And it'll be like a former student of mine or somebody I know. And I'll call them and I'll say, you just blew it. Well, that was a private room. Nobody from the commercial can see it. I said, wait a minute. I saw it. How do you know I'm not part of this commercial? Mm-hmm. Oh, are you? I said, exactly. You don't know. Is your agent a part of this group? Is someone going to say to your agent, hey, Joe Schmo, I just read online, has a big callback. What are they talking about that? It's going to get back to them. People used to get fired because of water cooler gossip. Mm-hmm. And now they're posting it. No page is closed. No page is private. Don't talk about the journey that got you there. Post a link to the finished product, and no humble brags, no thank yous. Just post a link and let your followers organically fill in the blanks. Is that you as the voice? Yes, great stuff. Thank you. And all of a sudden, everybody you're connected to, they're going to see the actual finished job. That's impressive. Mm-hmm. But think good thoughts for my callback. When is the last time you saw Rob Paulson say, think good thoughts about my callback? That's the other thing these guys would tell me in this all-day workout group. Carry yourself as a very successful, professional, working voice actor. Never break character, and the industry will treat you accordingly.
Right. Yeah. It's a riff on the idea that you get back what you put out there. Mm-hmm. And I see this in the streaming world because I stream a couple of days a week. And I have a chat, a bunch of people who come in and they'll just type things on the chat while I'm playing a game and interacting with them. And my chat is pretty positive and it's pretty chill. And anyone who comes in and is disruptive, I have moderators, they immediately just sort of ban them and say, get out. Because that's the vibe I put out there. And I've talked to other
and
streamers.
that's the vibe everybody should put out there. Be positive, be fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Other streamers will say, I can't control my chat. And I say, well, that's on you. You got to stop putting out the vibe that you're okay with a bunch of people coming in and trashing the place. So the same thing goes for your social media feed. I chose, and I announced it before I did it. Every 4 years, I decide for about a day, sometimes it turns into a week, to get political because there's an election coming. And if anyone pays attention to what I say, maybe I'll give you food for thought. Then I shut it down.
Right.
And the people who are always political, great. If that's what you want, you're going to get it. You're going to get it, and get ready because it's going to take on a life of its own.
And don't be upset when that company that hired you as their network national whatever class A voice all of a sudden decided to stop because they disagree with your politics. Now, if that's okay to you, great. Now, not the same thing. I was working, doing ADR on a cartoon feature. It was a franchise. So it was like my second, number 2, number 3, number 5, whatever it was. Mm-hmm. And same group of people, except one actor was missing. And I said to the producer, where's so-and-so? Are they sick? And the producer said, okay, I know they didn't mean it. And they probably didn't even know I was a part of it. But like a month ago, they posted on Facebook, hey, who saw blah, blah, blah? I know it's killing in the box office, but I thought it was shit. And he goes, I wrote it. I produced it. I don't want them in my, so actors who are just, innocent chit chat. What do you think about the latest Pixar, blah, blah, blah? Well, you want to work for Pixar? Keep your criticism to a phone call. Don't put it out there because somebody who worked on that, who cast it, a network executive, a secretary who's now a showrunner, you're insulting their career.
Yeah. And it used to be you would be just in a room and you'd have to worry about who is in the room or who might talk about what was said in the room. Now the room is the entire world. If you put it on the internet.
It's become group therapy. Yeah. And I can remember in the old days being at Voicecasters or Elaine Craig or whatever. We didn't sit around that lobby saying things as freely as people say on social media. But for some reason that even if your name is there, that anonymity, that distance, that distance, for some reason gives people the permission and the protection. It's not real. It's not true. You're not permitted. You're not protected.
Yeah.
And when people aren't working, all of a sudden they don't realize, oh my God, it's because of something I posted. And I've actually had close friends where I've called them up and said, look, here's the problem. And they're like, well, if somebody doesn't want to hire me for that, then fuck them. Pardon, I don't know if I can.
No, you can curse all you want.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm like, yeah, I don't believe that you mean that. And that's your ego. And that's stupid for business. But if you're happy, that's fine. And then I will distance because I don't want to be guilty by association.
Sometimes people like that, and hey, maybe they have enough money, as we call it, fuck you money. Maybe they have enough fuck you money where they can do that. But sometimes their actions have a blast radius, and you don't want to be in the blast radius. And
not only that, but look, I'm very fortunate that I've been able to make a living at this. I didn't get into this for the money, and I was at Pat Brady's Christmas party several years ago, and I'm at the buffet with Rob Paulson. Mm-hmm. And I said, dude, just out of curiosity, did you get into this for the money? And he said, I'm not in it today for the money. I just they keep hiring me and I don't know why, but I'm grateful for every job. And I will tell my students that I'm not in this for the money. Now, don't get me wrong. If I'm doing something that I've done before where my agent can negotiate a better deal the next time, that's called business.
Yeah.
But I'm not in it for that guarantee. I'm in it because the microphone, that's my happy place.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just dig it.
Yeah. And I think if you ask most people who have done this for a long time, what would your day be like if you didn't have to get up and pay bills, if you didn't have to do this or that thing? It would probably be very similar to what their days are already like.
Yeah.
I've talked to my wife about this. I said, if we won the lottery or if I was just guaranteed that the residuals for this awesome show will always be this awesome and we don't have to worry about paying bills, what would I do with my day? I would kind of have the same day. I would still want to get up, spend time with the family, exercise, go outside a little bit. And then I want to bark into a microphone, whether it's for an audition or if it's for something I'm creating myself that I want to share with people. I mean, I'm never going to not create. And so, yeah, as you say, if you know you want to do this, and if someone's willing to pay you to do it, then don't just be good at doing it. Be good at getting paid for it too. So that in the inevitable days that come where you won't work as much, whether it's permanent or temporary, you'll have a buffer so that you don't have to get up and think, oh my God, now what do? I have to get a regular job.
And this is why I say live below your means, save every dime, invest wisely. Look, acting should feed your soul the way food feeds your body. I'm sure you're the same way as I am. We've had auditions where we have been more satisfied creatively in the audition than at the job, where they start to peel back your creativity that got you in the room because this is what they now want for the character. Okay, fine. I'm happy to do whatever you need.
Yeah.
But I had more fun in my booth in that audition because no one's telling me you can't do that.
Right.
But on the other hand, we talk about this all the time. Should I get to I may get to a point where I want to travel for 4 months. Mm-hmm. Chances are I'm going to travel with my gear.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm doing a series right now for Netflix where about 2 years ago, we were at a lovely resort in Santa Barbara, and I always travel with my gear. And I get the call from my agent. It's a pilot for Netflix. It just came in. I said, no problem. I can do it. I forgot my cords. So I called her up and I said, it was like on a Friday. And I said, I'm home Sunday night. Can I have this first thing Monday? She said, no, it's a hard deadline tonight. So I literally held my iPad over my head and I read the lines like this. And I talked into the, and it's a series. I just completed season 1. We're about to start season 2.
Nice.
Going back to, if you're a good actor and you can create, damn it, all they need to do is hear your audition. And I sent the audition to myself to make sure it sounded okay. And in my home studio with my great speakers, it sounded great.
Right. So yeah, I feel like I'd be the same way. Your gear doesn't have to be much more than a mic, something to operate it on. And geez, I mean, I hear stories. I think D. Bradley Baker is an ace at this. You put him in any room and he's going to create an acoustic environment out of it with just a bunch of odds and ends. He's MacGyver.
Unbelievable at that.
With that stuff.
Laura Jill Miller, same way. We're doing sessions and she says, oh, I got couch cushions around me.
Yeah.
She goes down and she tells her neighbor, she comes down with cookies or muffins and she says, hey, I've got a session for 2 hours. Can you be quiet? I mean, you make it work. You make it work.
Yeah, exactly. So speaking of which, I don't want to keep you for too long, but we could go on and on about this.
By the way, have you started recording?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, I thought we were just shooting the shit. I'm sorry.
Oh, this is just the warm up. This is just
spontaneous conversation here.
Pre-life. Well, I always tell people when I have it on, I said, this is not really an interview. I don't know what else to call it, so I call it that, but it's a hang. I talk as much as you talk. We're chatting. But as I say, you have a lot of fans. They may want to know not just what you've done. So I wonder what Bob Bergen's like. This is what Bob is like. You hang out, you talk with him. He shares things that he's experienced. He shares received wisdom. And I'm hoping that people don't just want to know, oh, well, what's his approach to creating a character? There's so much else that comes into creating a career, a lasting career, that doesn't get talked about enough. And just you educating me about the current state of the industry reinforces the notion that you have got to make sure that you have your shit together financially, because we don't know what kind of protections are going to be in place. Even if the union's doing its very best, sometimes the shifting tides shift away from our business model.
And sometimes, I remember when Voice 123 started and I went to a board meeting with a big thick stack of auditions from Voice 123. And I said, this is going to do to union voiceover what sound did to silent movies. It's going to make it obsolete if we don't stay relevant and get a handle on this. And because it happened outside their backyard, they didn't believe me. They said, there's no database information on this. And I said, of course not. They don't report non-union information.
Yeah.
And they didn't listen to me. They let this happen.
Yeah. I tell you what also scares me is a new development. I can't remember the term for it, but basically we have, probably like everybody does, we have Alexa and Echo in our homes. We have Siri. And I think to myself,
By the
yeah,
way, you just my
I just,
Alexa
of
made noise
course,
because
of course.
it's Chris. I'll show you The Simpsons later.
Yeah. Hey. Um,
Alexa, say hi to Chris.
Hi there.
She doesn't like your name.
Doesn't
Okay.
like the name. Yeah. Sorry,
Right.
it doesn't work for me. And I realized that voice, that's somebody's voice, but they didn't record every single thing it says. Nobody has that kind of time. It's AI taking a human voice and basically from, I guess, a bank of stuff, whoever the lovely actress is that recorded it, extrapolating from there. And there now is the technology to take someone's voice, record them saying whatever, and then from there they can add any dialogue, you saying any dialogue they want. I have no idea if the union even grasps that concept, much less has a contract that covers it.
Yeah, yes and yes.
Okay.
They grasp it. If somebody tries to grab something from a union something, they have a grasp on it. I'm not concerned about somebody. Look, you know what's going to happen one day? They're going to be able to take 50 years of Mel Blanc doing Porky Pig, type in a brand new sentence with the proper inflection and acting, and create all new scripts.
Yeah.
I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime, but I'm not so arrogant to think it may not,
Yeah, it could.
But here's where I think the danger comes. Not where they're creating new content for TV and film, for cartoons, for games. It's creating new clips that are going to be on the news, on TMZ, of celebrities, of politicians. Like, let's create a scandal.
Yeah, deep fakes.
Deep fakes. Let's create a scandal that's going to piss off the followers of this politician, of this actor. This we want this movie to bomb, so let's make it look like so and so is talking about pedophilia or whatever.
Yeah,
I think that's the biggest danger.
Yeah.
And that exists today. That technology exists.
Oh, yes.
Today.
Yes. And as we know, you don't even have to tell even a sophisticated lie to get people to believe it if they already want to believe it. And so,
and we're living in the cancel culture where people's lives are completely destroyed by something out of context or just foot in your mouth. No one's allowed to go oops anymore. We can't even Joan Rivers, Don Rickles would have no career today.
None.
Because people have no sense of humor.
I know. And I'm concerned about that too. And only partially for myself. I feel like, okay, if I got canceled, if all my platforms got taken away, fine. I will find a way to adapt. But we're raising children. And I want to be able to raise them to not have to tippy-toe around every single topic. And so we've got a lot of work to do on all sides of the spectrum in learning how to empathize with each other more. And I am hoping that people can put the torches down metaphorically and literally long enough to say, oh, well, okay, I wouldn't want everyone to know every stupid thing I've ever said either.
Right.
So maybe we, instead of trying to get rid of them completely, why don't we have a dialogue instead?
Well, let's also try to remember what the word tolerance means. It means accepting those whose opinions differ from you, not let's get everybody who agrees on the same thing and call us tolerant.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have never unfriended anybody who said something politically I disagree with. I just don't comment or continue reading their stuff because I'm like, you roll your eyes at the silly. My parents raised me on sticks and stones. If I disagree with what they say, I can ignore it, or I can feed into this social media dilemma and create chaos that doesn't need to be created. Like you said, you got kids. We were all bullied. We were all picked on in school. But your parents teach you that's how you don't treat people.
Right.
You know how that hurts? You don't treat people that way. And you roll your eyes and you laugh it off and you walk away and you get a tough skin and you continue on with your life and it builds character. But today, no, you should be a victim. And they should be canceled. No, that's just going to create a world of, like you said, It's chaos, and they got to put the pitchforks down. They got to put the torches down and have a dialogue.
Yeah. And that is something that you mentioned, dilemma, and I think that was purposeful. The social dilemma, obviously you've seen it. And I'm talking to everyone about this that will listen to me. The social dilemma on Netflix needs to be watched by everybody and multiple times.
Mandatory.
Yeah, and I'm going to watch it more than once because it really needs to sink in that these things we have here, which I dearly love, also need to be treated with care and moderation because they've got their hooks in us. And I don't think we completely see how it's changing how we view the world.
I agree. And they strategically planned the whole thing.
Yeah, they're very good at getting us to pick these things up first thing in the morning.
And by the way, and put it down right before you go to sleep.
Yeah, so that it stays with you. I've talked about this. Except for the weekends, I now have instituted a structure on my day where I don't pick up any social media, any technology until I'm at the breakfast table. I get up, I do my stretch, I do my morning routine. I don't start the day with that. When I'm finally ready to be fully awake, okay, I'll see what's going on in the world.
And this is how I know I'm not addicted to it, because I still, first thing I do is pour that cup of coffee.
Yeah.
Before I hit the computer.
Yeah.
But I do hit the computer after the coffee.
Right. And you do hit the coffee, but hey.
Oh, I've got the timer on. It goes off at 4 a.m. because I'm not an evening person, and my East Coast agent might need their copy in by 6 a.m. LA time.
Interesting.
So I'm up usually between 4 and 6 every day.
Oh man.
But I crash. You know, sometimes we are animation sessions for people who are watching this. Yeah. You get 9 to 1, 2 to 6. Those are the blocks for episodic.
Pretty much, yeah.
Sessions. And if I have a 2 to 6, if it starts at 2, it'll probably be done after, probably before 4. But I'm not. The last thing I want to do after that is audition. But I'm an early person.
Yeah.
But I drink a pot of coffee every morning.
A pot? Really? Well, I'm of the opinion that coffee, I used to think it was just a push. It was just an overall neutral, like some good things, some bad things, and it's different for every person. Now I'm starting to think that the right coffee in the right amounts, taken the right way, is actually a health benefit. So it depends on what doctor you're talking to. I'm not a coffee guy. Yeah, I'm not a coffee guy. I do a yoga stretch in the morning, and that tends to wake me up. But
I fear the doctor that says you must give up coffee, because I will probably give up the doctor.
Yeah.
I listen, I don't do drugs. I'm a social drinker, but I've never tried marijuana in my life.
Yeah.
It's just not something that I'm interested in doing, primarily for what you said, is that I don't want it to hurt my throat, hurt my voice.
Yeah.
And people say, they're like, oh dude, get edibles. I'm like, I don't want edibles, you know? But I work out. I've got a home gym now because we can't go to the gym because you'll die going to the gym. But yeah, coffee is my drug of choice.
Yeah. Believe me, there are worse drugs to have.
Right.
Although, man, that thing's got claws, because my brother was visiting one time, and he's a coffee guy, has, I'm sure, more than a cup a day. And he had not had his coffee yet in the morning, and we were out driving, and I said, all right, well, we'll get coffee. And he says, dude, I really need my coffee. I could tell he was getting a headache. He was getting cranky. And I said, oh, well, there's a Starbucks about a mile down the road. And as soon as he knew that coffee was coming, he started to cheer up. And I thought, oh, that is a powerful substance right there.
Yeah, he was jonesing for a heroin fix. Let's be honest. And to me, I smell the coffee in the morning and I go,
oh yeah.
Oh, baby. Yeah. Daddy needs a little caffeine.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, worse things that you could be hooked on. That's for sure.
That's right.
In fact, if I was ever going to have to choose an addiction, it would be coffee. I do like the taste of it. I think it smells fantastic. Right. And you get a little boost from it. So there's something there. I've just found that, I don't really need it. And the same thing goes for everybody else. My thing is sugar. And so that's the thing I've had to really put a tamp down on. So,
well, the last time you and I saw each other socially was that evening out at that Mexican restaurant.
Yeah.
Bob Joel's.
Yeah.
And I think I had just started eating keto.
Oh, yeah.
And I still am. I'm almost 2 years into it.
Really?
And have not had processed sugar, have not had bread or pasta. I make all keto, ice creams and breads and whatever. But I'm with you, man. Since I stopped eating sugar, I have noticed such a huge difference in my clarity, in my demeanor. I didn't know I had brain fog until I stopped eating sugar.
You can, yeah, that's a. Some of it I just leave up to my little ADHD, which I've
Right?
got one of those borderline cases. I've always been able to function, but sometimes days are difficult. And if you're cognitively aware of it, you can adapt. But for me, yes, I'm way cut down. I have not cut it out completely. I like it too much, but I keep a close eye on my basically my yearly visits to the doctor. All right, what does the blood work say? The
Right,
blood work
right.
is in a very healthy level for me. Again, knock on wood.
Mhm.
Some of it may be genetics, but I'm very healthy otherwise. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing, which means every now and then, if I want to have pasta, I'll have a little. If I
Right.
want to have something on the weekend that's junk, I'll have it. But I always mix in something healthy. You gotta throw some good stuff in there to help the body cope with this bad shit.
Yeah, and you exercise. Weren't you the
I
guy
do.
who would ride his bike to see
I
ESD?
used to, and then when I had kids, I thought, well, fuck that. There's
Yeah.
just too many. There's too many things that can go wrong on that bike, and I've
Right.
got people. I've got dependents.
Yeah, there you
So
go.
I decided, yeah. So we ride our bikes around the neighborhood just so the kids can get some exercise and we can get some. But yeah, you start doing the actuarials when you get older. You
That's
start,
right. Of course you do. Of course
yeah,
you do.
you can't help it. It's keeping it all in perspective. I mean, I'm 51. I don't feel 51, but I'm
Right.
aware of it. And you can't help but be aware that, okay, that thing you want to do right now, you want to run up and try and dunk a tennis ball. Don't try that. Your Achilles is going to go. Don't be
And that's
stupid.
going to set you back for way too long.
Exactly. I talked to my doctor about this. He said, "You're going to run a 5K again this year?" Because he knows I'm trying to beat my old time from when I was like
Mhm.
17. And I said,
Right.
Yeah, I'm planning on it. I mean, this is before COVID. And he said, don't be so hung up about running a record time. He said, you're healthy, but if you push your body too much, you risk getting injured. And this is a sports doctor. He works with
Uh,
like Major League Baseball, all of that. And he says, yeah, you're going to increase your chances of getting injured. And when you're 50, getting injured means staying injured for longer than when you were 25.
True.
So yeah, it is. It becomes more about calculating the odds than when you're just in your 20s and you're never going to die.
Yeah, you're just invincible when you're
Yeah.
young, and you're also dumb. But
Oh
I'm telling
yeah.
you, I'm 56. I don't feel 56.
Right.
I can, but the men in my family before my dad's generation didn't see 50. Everybody
Really.
dropped dead between 45 and 50 of kidney failure, heart disease, you name it, diabetes. And it was before dialysis. It was before bypass surgery.
Right.
Well, you don't want to rely on that. You kind of like to beat the odds genetically if you
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
And nobody in my family exercised. They didn't eat right. Now keto is full fat. That's the antithesis of what I thought was healthy. But my cholesterol's going down because of it, and I think it's because I exercise. But we're not talking about voiceover right now, are we?
We don't have to. We talk about
Okay.
whatever we feel like. That's the
All
whole
right.
point.
Coming
Yeah.
up on the next show, prostate exams.
Yeah. Well,
Hey,
luckily, look, had the colonoscopy. Did that. Yep.
I'm having my first in
Really?
about 3. Yeah.
Okay, good. Hey, good for you because a lot of people don't know this. Well, the good news about prostate exams for you younger guys, they don't have to use the magic finger anymore.
No,
just
they
look
don't.
at your PSA.
That's
I
right.
had 2 years ago. I go in for mine. I go in for my regular exam, and the doc at the end of the exam he says, "Oh, thanks to the PSAs being pretty accurate, we don't have to do it digitally." And I said, "Doc, you could have led with that.
Yeah,
I've been
right.
spending the last 20 minutes dreading this
Cringing.
part." Yeah.
You're like sitting there going, "It'll be quick.
Yeah,
It'll be quick."
It'll be quick. Yeah, and now with the colonoscopy and this, if you're younger, you're going, ooh, guess what? You're gonna need to get one a lot sooner than you think because Chadwick Boseman should still be with us. There's no
Well, they
reason a guy.
they just lowered the mandatory age for men to 45.
Yeah, and frankly, I talked to a guy that did my wife's because she's 6 months older than me, and we had ours like pretty close to each other. And he said we wanted to lower it to 35, and the insurance company said there's no way. We had to settle on 45, but he says I work over at Kaiser Permanente where we get a lot more of these, and he says either every day or every week I have to tell someone who's younger that they have some level of colon cancer, and
Yeah.
they're completely stunned. It's like, how? We don't know why. We think it's because more and more people are eating more processed foods, and they're more sedentary, and they're not working out as much. They're not exercising as much. So you go in, you do it. It's really not a big deal. The prep is the harder part, and even the prep's not as bad.
No,
You've had the
I remember
spiel.
when my mom got hers years and years and years ago, and she's drinking
yeah.
gallons of this stuff. I got 2 little bottles that I got to drink.
Yeah.
And it's the anticipation that I think is harder than the actual procedure.
Of course.
I was talking to my doctor about it. He goes, "It'll be the best sleep you'll have in a long time."
It's going to be a great nap. There'll be a little bit of pressure from the air that gets trapped up in there. A couple hours later, that's gone. Right. And I talked to the guy doing the procedure. I said, in my opinion, there's no bad news, because if they find something, it's a good thing you went in there because they can treat it. If they don't find anything, great. Good news. So there's no bad news. The only bad news is when you decide to not get one. It's like, hey,
and you know what? I'm 56. You're supposed to get it at 55. And by the way, I didn't put it off for any other reasons other than I'll get to that. I scheduled the appointment. You have a call back. Okay, never mind. I mean, I seriously, it's like that's the curse of being an actor. I can't turn down a job. I can't turn down an audition. So yeah. I think my doctor it was like a month in advance because he's a very popular, I don't know what gastrologist, whatever they call. So I booked out. I'm doing it Christmas Eve.
Really?
Yeah, because I figure who's going to be working that day. So I'm strategically planning it around the holidays. And what a lovely Christmas gift for yourself.
Of course, just to be, hey, I will say your trips to the restroom for the next couple of days are going to be glorious.
There we go.
They're going to be fantastic. It's going to be heaven. And you think, oh, this is the rest of my life. No, about a week later, back to normal.
There we go. There we go.
Hey, do it before the holidays. You don't want to spend the holidays thinking, oh, I got to do that prep.
Well, it's not like I'm traveling, so what do I care?
Yeah, nobody's traveling. Yeah. So, yeah. This is what happens with my talks. We'll start with one thing. We take a hard right or left turn.
Into the shitter.
Yeah, always, always so. And later we can always edit it out if you feel like, I don't want people.
Oh no, you know what? Like you said, people should. It's not just all about voiceover. They should know about the real person. It doesn't get more real than that.
Exactly. Plus, if there's somebody who's 34 years old and thinks I don't have to go in and get a colonoscopy, and they watch us talk about it, and I say Chadwick Boseman, who is in phenomenal shape, and he was busy battling stage 4 colon cancer. Yeah. Just because you look healthy doesn't mean everything inside is guaranteed.
That's right.
You got to go and you got to get it done. So
there you go.
There it is.
That's your lesson from the 2 voiceover guys today.
Yeah, exactly. Colonoscopies, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
Don't go to sleep on them. See what I did? Bob Bergen, this was fantastic, enlightening, thanks, educating, fun as always, and we'll have to, we'll have to check back in. Maybe just sometime in 2021. Let's see how you're doing. Let's see how the agencies are doing. Let's see how the union's doing.
I'll have pictures from my colonoscopy,
and we'll put those right up.
There we go.
We'll put up a link.
We'll play Name That Colon. I can see if Tom Hanks is up there somewhere online. Well, is that Woody's or Porky's?
Yep. That'll be good viewing right there, ladies and gentlemen.
There you go.
High quality content. So in the meantime, sir, where can people find you? Because you have these great workshops. You're believe me, when people ask me, I want to get into voiceover, I send them to 2 places. You got to check out Bob Bergen. You got to check out D. Bradley Baker. I want to be a
voiceactor.com, the greatest website on the planet.
Yep. Now, where can people reach you and find out more?
So Instagram, I'm bergen.bob, Twitter @BobBergen. BobBergen.com is my website. My private Zooms have a wait list, but get on it because not everybody is available when I call them. I'm pretty well booked through like January, February of next year, but get on it. I don't see myself doing group workshops in the immediate future. I think this COVID thing's going to happen for a while.
Yeah, most likely it will. And for you people out there who want to get into the business or you want to improve your standing in it, Bob is an invaluable resource. You're not just going to learn about your craft, but you're going to learn about the other stuff we talked about, how to be a pro. It's not just acting.
and about intestinal health.
Yes, well, that'll be that's the extra
That's the
session
final.
you get.
That's the final.
That's the final.
Yeah.
You got to ace that. All right.
There you
So
go.
in the meantime, Bob, this was fantastic.
It was fun, buddy.
Love to you and yours, and have a
Pleasure.
great holiday.
Yeah, you do the same.